I look like a complete mess right now, and that is because I currently have the flu and there's really nothing I can do about it. Probably gonna get 2 intros with this video because I have been trying to get this video up probably for 2 months now. I filmed this back at the end of January, but my immune system is complete crap this year, and I have picked up literally every bug that I could possibly encounter, and it has been a struggle. I mean, between already having a regular chronic illness where I feel like crap most of the time, it's even harder when you pick up normal people illness and you have to deal with both of those while trying to at least do something with your time, you know, and try to keep up with this YouTube channel. I haven't had the energy. I haven't had the, what's the word I'm looking for? Obviously I'm a mess, okay? I am a complete mess. Not been feeling up to things. So yeah, this is why this video is super late, as are all my other wrap-ups, updates, and videos I had planned to make. Literally have not sat down to film a video at my usual filming spot since like the beginning of December. Let's continue with the video. Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shaelene, and today I am going to talk about the books that I read in December. We're just going to get on to the books that I read in December. There really aren't that many books that I read in December. Side note, I will have my January wrap-up posted hopefully soon, and also a Nonfiction Fridays video for you guys, because I have read a lot of nonfiction in the past 3 months that I haven't talked about, so that'll probably be a very long video, and that is coming to you hopefully soon. Hopefully the flu doesn't get me again. One of the first books that I read in December was The Luminous Dead by Starling. I was super excited to read this book because it was a sci-fi book. I was definitely in the mood to read sci-fi. It was also in a cave, which I was going on a cave kick. I was like reading books with caves. I was watching movies and TV shows with caves. I just think it's an interesting setting. This book is interesting, but it is so long-winded. So Gaia Price, she is on this here planet, and she accepts this here caving expedition to map this here cave. There's a lot of money in it for her. She needs the money. She lies about her credentials. She doesn't think that the person hiring her knows that, and so she goes onto this caving expedition with essentially nobody but herself. She's alone, and it's a lot more than she ever thought it was going to be. And so she's stuck in this here cave, going on this here mission for this here woman who's basically killed off a lot of the people that she is hired to go in this here cave system because she's desperately searching for answers. It's like a psychological thriller sci-fi book. It's a weird mix. It's so long-winded. It's so drawn out. This is a 400-page book, and it easily could have been a fantastic book with, like, you know, 270 to 330 pages. It was just too long for what it was. There was also a lot of bickering between Gaia and M, the woman who sends her on this here expedition. They just have quite a toxic relationship. M is just a control freak. She injects things into Gaia that she doesn't consent to being injected with. And yeah, it's just a lot of crazy stuff happens. They're both not that great of people. And yeah, I mean, it's just the bickering between the two characters is what drove me crazy. And then also, whenever there was any big revelation of like a secret or something she found out, it never really held any weight. Like, it wasn't a big shock. So yeah, the only parts I liked of this novel were the you know, caving adventure kind of scenes and the high stakes and like the adventure stuff she does, but like that's it. Yeah, I was so disappointed in this book. I should have DNF'd it because it was just going on and on and on forever. So in the end, I ended up giving this a 2.5 stars. It was just super disappointing. I really wanted to love this and I wanted it to be so much more than what it was. So the next book I read was a book that was super hyped up on BookTube and Bookstagram and like everywhere. So I read Wilder Girls by Rory Power. And first of all, I'm just gonna say that this cover is absolutely stunning. One of my favorite covers that I've seen in a while. We are following these girls as they are at this boarding school on this island that's like isolated from everything else. And then the tox happens and these girls are infected with some sort of disease that alters their bodies in grotesque ways. And so these girls are kind of left to fend on their own with the tox happening. They don't really get any outside support. It's basically just them and what few adults are in their lives to help them through this. I felt like this book was so average for all the hype it got. I really love the setting of isolation, and especially combined with there being some sort of, you know, outbreak or whatever. But it's just, the thing that kind of bugged me about this book was that in the end of it all, we never really find out what the tox is at all. Like there's really no explanation for it and what the purpose of the tox is, whether or not it was a government experiment. Like we get absolutely no conclusion, and I absolutely hate books with open endings, so it was just very frustrating. But also, there wasn't really a whole lot that happened in this book. We just follow the characters as they're kind of dealing with this tox, and then some of the characters are like chosen to travel through the woods to go to this certain drop-off point where they have supplies dropped off to them. And then we also have a character who becomes sick and she is taken to quarantine, except she is really taken elsewhere, and one of the characters tries to find this out, and yeah, it's just a bunch of crazy stuff, but it's like, okay. Yeah, the story wasn't great. Also, this book is supposed to have disability rep. The girls, you know, they do have things wrong with them as a result of the tox, but this is a kind of gross, very disfigurement portrayal of disability that isn't realistic and is also slightly harmful to people with actual disabilities. Like, you have girls who are throwing up teeth, you have a silver hand, a girl with a second spine who's growing like spikes out of her spine. The only real disability like rep that was realistic was one of the characters was blind in one eye. That's it. I think when you put disability in a book and you put disability in a book and you have it as these grotesque disabilities, it's very othering and subhumaning people who actually have disabilities. In my opinion, I know this is a work of fiction, but still, for many years and throughout history, people with disabilities were often regarded as other and subhuman as a result of their disability. So I think that's what this book does, and it does it terribly. So this isn't good disability rep at all. In fact, even throughout the book, like, they don't really ever talk about you know, what the tox has done to them. They all just kind of have to deal with it together. So that's really as far as the conversation about disability goes. So yeah, I ended up giving this a 3 stars. If the ending was more resolved, I probably would have rated it higher. I don't know. It was an okay book, and that's that. It was a book that I read. So the next book that I read was also quite a popular book. It's been a little bit hyped up. It's also probably getting a movie from what I know. And that's The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. Now, this book has been hyped up and it's been highly rated, but I have a few problems with this book. But first of all, I will just kind of talk about the things that I liked about the book. This is set in a society where it is overtly religious. Women are, you know, to submit to men, and they're supposed to be quiet and meek creatures. They're not supposed to make a fuss, blah blah blah. When girls reach 16, they get chosen by the men in their community to either be married, or if they are not chosen, they get sent to the outskirts of the town where they are destitute, and they basically have to do sex work for a living in order to get by, or work and do hard labor. And so when these girls reach 16 years old, they are sent off to their grace year, which they get sent to this here place that's far off and remote, and it's fenced in. They are put in this little plot of land, and that's where their magic is released, and this magic is said to lure men into temptation and all this kind of crap. And yeah, basically the girls just go crazy during their grace year, and after they come back, they're supposed to be pure and untainted and whatever, and then they get married off, or they get sent to the outskirts and they live their lives for the rest of their life. So yeah, that's the basis of this colony. And Tierney, she is this here girl. She doesn't want to be married. She thinks the grace year is kind of stupid. She doesn't really like the whole system of things, and she gets chosen for marriage unexpectedly. She's sent off to her grace year. She's very adamant, like, when I go back, I'm not gonna be with this guy, blah blah blah. And then yeah, it's just things happen in the grace year. The girls go crazy because of certain reasons. There's a lot of cliquey stuff. There's one girl in here who's like very much the mean girl, and she takes over and she kind of, you know, is ruthless. They're so mean to each other, and yeah, stuff happens with all the girls, and then stuff happens with Tierney, and she ends up injured and gets captured by these here hunters who hunt the grace year girls, because these here girls, it's said that if men eat the flesh of these girls, they have healing properties of some sort. It's a crazy concept, okay? And Tierney, she gets injured. This here hunter saves her or whatever. She's basically held hostage by him. Yes, I'm spoiling everything here. She's basically held hostage by him, and she obviously distrusts him. She doesn't like hunters. They've killed, you know, girls like her. But then she ends up developing romantic feelings for this guy that has got her, when she has been very adamant throughout the entire book that she doesn't like men, she's never going to fall in love with anyone, and she wants to be independent. Guess what she does? She falls in love, other things happen, they get intimate. So yeah, it's the whole captor turned lover, and I absolutely hate that trope. It is a disgusting trope, and that is what made me hate this book so darn much. And the fact that Tierney just did a whole 360 in her thinking. No, yeah, I really hated this book for that. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought it was stupid. But at the same time, I felt like what the author was trying to achieve with this story and with the message was kind of contradictory when it came to the ending. And then, you know, with that ending, it made no sense. Not at all. I thought it was a stupid ending. I thought it was pointless. Like, what was the point of that? So yeah, I was really kind of disappointed in this one. Will I watch the movie that's supposed to happen? I probably will, but honestly, it's just not really something I would be 100% drawn to watching. The next two books that I read were books of the same kind of series. I read the first one, I think, around probably this time last year, like in March last year. So I read The Light of Lorelei by Minkman. So basically this is a sequel to this series. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but yeah, I mean, it was a really quick read. These books are so short, but they're quite fun. They're very interesting. There's a really interesting world dynamic going on. Basically, you have this here island that's kind of like a European-ish kind of island in somewhere off of like Norway or whatever. That's where I kind of think it's at anyways. I don't know. And it's just this kind of island that's kind of divided between the native islanders and then the people who came to colonize this island. And the native islanders have a lot of mythology and their, you know, whole way of life to do with the ocean and whatnot. And then you have the reigning people, I guess you could say, or the people that have basically taken over the island. They are rich, they're well off, they're powerful, and of course you have the, you know, conquered people of the island who are in poverty. They have a very classist and discriminatory system placed upon them in which they can't get an education, they can't do this, they can't do that. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But then they also have this whole religion that revolved around this here Light of Lorelei kind of thing, where it's this myth that the St. Brandon's fire keeps away the sirens that are in the ocean waters that attack the islanders. I can't remember what goes on in the second book, but I do know that I enjoyed it, not as much as the first. So I gave that one a 3.5 stars. I read the third book after that, and this is The Fire of Fryslan. This book number 3, I think I've already said that. My brain's all over the place. So this is probably the one that I liked just as much as the first book. I believe this follows a religious girl who is in the church or whatever, or that's the second one. I actually can't even remember. But I like the characters, and I like this one just as much as the first one, so I gave that one a 4 stars. And then in December, I reread Skin&Earth by Lights, the graphic novel. I love this graphic novel series. It's my favorite. I had to reread it. I was in the mood for it. It's so good. I love it. It's so near and dear to me because I love Lights so much. It's great. If you're a fan of Lights, you know, I suggest you check it out. If you're just a fan of graphic novels, it's a pretty good one. It's about this girl who is in this dystopian society. You know, the environment's gone to crap. There's a faction system. You have the people who are kind of close to this here destructive point in their town or whatever, and they suffer from all sorts of maladies and they die young because of the pollution. She thinks there's more to life and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, it's a really good graphic novel. I enjoyed it. I really hope that Lights is writing more because it's so good. And I really need a second follow. I'm pretty sure my camera didn't turn off when I was talking about Sky in the Deep, so we will go to that now. So the next book I read is something that was quite disappointing to me. I was excited to read this, but I'm just, yeah. I read Sky in the Deep by Adrienne Young. I had read The Girl the Sea Gave Back earlier in the year. I absolutely loved that book. This is a duology, and you can actually read the books as separate from each other. So yeah, I read this, and again, it's the kind of captor to lovers kind of trope. And I just hate that trope. I just absolutely hate it. It's disgusting. Stop it, please. Basically, we follow Elin. She is a Viking, obviously, and she's on this here battlefield, and they are fighting against a warring clan. When she's in battle, she sees what looks to be her brother, who she believed to be dead. And so she goes basically running after this guy, and she discovers that yes, it's her brother. Her brother ended up, they take her hostage to this here, to their village. And yeah, she's basically held hostage for a while. There's just a lot of fighting, and then there's just a lot of mundane stuff that kind of happen, and then we follow the rest of the novel as Elin develops a relationship with her brother's best friend, which is basically his adopted kind of brother. And yeah, I mean, that's really it. And then there's some action in the end, and then yeah, I was disappointed in this because I loved The Girl the Sea Gave Back so much. Yeah, this is a disappointment. And I'm super sad in saying that because I love novels about Vikings, but this just didn't do it for me. So again, this was 3 stars. Very disappointed. I don't understand the whole captor to lovers trope. It's disgusting. Those are all the books I read in December. I didn't have the greatest reading month because December is just so darn busy. I spent most of my time in December wrapping presents and cooking and cleaning and then I got sick with the flu. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this here wrap up. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe. I will leave the links to my Instagram, my Goodreads, and my Twitter in the description below, and you guys can go and follow me there, and I will see you next time. Bye!